Have you ever stood on a station platform waiting for a train and wondered about the massive metal boxes that eventually glide in to pick you up? Well, those boxes are called carriages, or sometimes cars. Think of them as rooms on wheels. They're not the engine, the bit at the front that does all the grunt work and pulls everything along. No, these are the bits you actually sit in, where you read your book, listen to music, or just stare out of the window as the world zips by. Now, before a single piece of metal is cut, some very clever people called designers and engineers get together with enormous pieces of paper and even more enormous computers. They have to think about everything. How many people need to fit inside? Where will the seats go? How many doors are needed so everyone can get on and off without a fuss? They design every single detail, from the shape of the windows to the type of handle you'll grab onto when the train lurches. It's like creating the ultimate, most complicated blueprint for the world's most useful metal box. Once the design is finalized, another group of people has to choose the right stuff to build it with. This is incredibly important. You can't just make a train carriage out of wood or plastic, can you? It would fall apart. So, they choose very strong but surprisingly light metals. Now for the exciting bit, making the thing. The first part of building a carriage is creating its skeleton, which is called the frame or the chassis. This is the strong base at the bottom and the supporting structure that gives the whole carriage its shape and strength. Immensely skilled workers called welders and fabricators take long, thick beams of steel and cut them to precise lengths using powerful saws and plasma cutters, which are like super hot jet torches. Then, using incredibly hot welding tools that spark and fizz, they join these beams together. This creates the solid floor and the upright pillars that will eventually hold the roof up. It's noisy, bright, and very clever work. With the skeleton in place, it's time to give the carriage its skin. This is done by adding large metal panels to the outside of the frame. These are the walls and the roof. Huge robotic arms, programmed by technicians, often lift these massive but thin sheets of aluminum or steel into place. Then, workers use a special technique called riveting, or sometimes more welding, to attach these panels securely to the skeleton. It's a bit like putting the icing on a very large, very rectangular metal cake. You might think that building a big metal box is simple, but it requires incredible precision. If one part of the frame is even a few millimeters out of place, the doors might not close properly, or the windows might not fit. Once you have your big empty metal box, it's not much of a carriage, is it? It's just a shell. The next stage is the really complex part, fitting it out. This is where the carriage is transformed from a hollow structure into a functioning vehicle. Teams of specialists swarm all over it, each with a different job. Electricians are first in, laying miles and miles of wires and cables under the floor and behind the walls. These wires will power everything from the automatic doors and the bright interior lights to the announcement system that tells you the next stop is Mind the Gap. It's like installing the entire nervous system of the carriage. After the electricians have worked their magic, another team comes in to install the plumbing and air systems. Yes, trains have plumbing, especially for the toilets on longer distance trains. But just as importantly, they install the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. These are massive units, often hidden in the ceiling, that keep the carriage cool in the summer and warm in the winter. They pump fresh air throughout the space, ensuring that even when it's packed with people, it doesn't get stuffy. Now the carriage is starting to look a bit more familiar. The next step is to install all the things you can actually see and touch. Workers carefully fit large, tough, non-slip flooring materials. Then they install the interior panels that hide all those wires and pipes we talked about. The double-glazed windows are sealed into place, and finally the seats are bolted securely to the floor in long rows. The handrails, grab poles, and luggage racks are all fitted at this point too, turning the empty space into a proper passenger area. The final piece of this interior puzzle is perhaps the most important for the driver, the cab. If the carriage is one that goes at the front of the train, it will have a driver's cab. This is like the cockpit of an airplane, but for a train. Technicians install the driver's seat, the control levers for making the train go and stop, the communication radio, and all the screens and dials that show the train's speed and system status. It's a highly technical and focused job, ensuring the driver has everything they need to operate the train safely and efficiently. With the inside all fitted out, the carriage is almost finished, but it still looks a bit plain, just a dull metal color. Now it's time to give it some personality. The carriage is moved into a gigantic spray booth, which is like a massive garage designed for painting. Robotic arms, Programmed with the exact design, sweep back and forth, applying several coats of paint. First comes a primer, which helps the paint stick, then the base colors, and finally the logos and livery of the train company. This paint isn't just for looks. It also provides another layer of protection against weather and rust, helping the carriage last for decades. Once painted and polished, the carriage looks ready to go, but it can't join the railway just yet. It has to pass a series of very, very strict tests. This is the quality control stage, and it is perhaps the most important step of all. Inspectors go over every single inch of the carriage with a fine-tooth comb. They check that every weld is perfect, every bolt is tightened correctly, and every system works as it should. They will open and close the doors hundreds of times, flush the toilets, and blast the air conditioning to make sure everything is in perfect working order. Nothing is left to chance. The testing doesn't stop there. The carriage is then put through its paces on a special test track. Here, engineers will test its braking system, making sure it can stop quickly and safely, even in an emergency. They test how it handles corners and how smoothly it rides. They load it with heavy weights to simulate a full load of passengers, ensuring the suspension works correctly and the journey is comfortable. Sometimes, they even spray it with powerful jets of water to make absolutely sure that it is completely watertight and there are no leaks. Only when it passes every single one of these tests can it be certified as safe for passengers. So, from a simple idea on a computer screen to a fully functioning, painted and tested vehicle, the journey of a train carriage is a long and complicated one. Every step, from choosing the right steel to tightening the last bolt and testing the brakes, is vital. It's this incredible attention to detail by hundreds of skilled people that ensures the train you ride every day is not only comfortable and reliable, but most importantly, incredibly safe. The next time you step onto a train, have a little look around and think about the amazing journey it took just to get there. It's a proper piece of engineering.